Welcome to day 3 in the book of James, as we're spending 5 weeks in the book of James as a church. So I'm going to read to you. We're 3 minutes in the book of James, that's our maximum. So let me read to you from James chapter 1, verse 2 to 8. My brothers and sisters, consider it nothing but joy when you fall into all sorts of trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its perfect effect, so that you'll be perfect and complete, not deficient in anything. But if anyone is deficient in wisdom, he should ask God, who gives to all generously and without reprimand, and it will be given to him. But he must ask in faith, without doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed around by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord, since he is a double-minded individual, unstable in all his ways. All right, let's think about this. There's something about endurance. This passage is talking about faith flourishing because of circumstances, not in spite of circumstances. That actually God will take stuff away to drive us to him. And this is the first of 7 times in the book of James that we're going to hear this word wholeness, that perfect and completeness, this wholeness. And it's the idea that there's going to be no fractures in who we are, that God is bringing it all together. And James gives an example of a fracture here, saying the double-minded individual, unstable in all his ways. The idea here is that spiritual maturity is coming as a response to suffering. That actually, when we have suffering thrust upon us, we shouldn't just be turning around and looking for the enemy. We should be considering the opportunity that it affords us, that actually God in the midst of us is compelling us and propelling us toward endurance, and that means towards spiritual maturity, where we might be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing, deficient in nothing. However, if we find ourselves deficient, James says, just ask God. If we find ourselves deficient in the wisdom that is required to get through the suffering, ask God. And as we ask, without doubting, knowing that God is for us and not against us, he will give us the wisdom that we need to get through the trial that he's talking about. How cool is that? Endurance. There's something about endurance, that God can only work something in you as you endure. Amen.